Today on the show, we're going to be meeting the man who's already paid €75,000 on his interest-only mortgage in 3 years and now can't pay any more.
Look, I've no axe to grind with the banks. People think I have an axe to grind with the bank. I don't. But they must take some responsibility. I mean, OK, maybe I shouldn't have signed this, or maybe I should have got a written guarantee, but you take people on their word. And, like, you know, the bank then, you know, they're pulling away from the broker, say, well, he's a broker, he didn't know us. But, you know, the truth of the matter is he was able to phone them and get an answer within 2 hours whether I could have the mortgage or not.
Ben Gilroy will be talking to us very shortly.
You may not be ready to have a baby right now, but would you freeze your eggs for possible use 5 years from now? We'll be finding out what options are available for Irish women who want to put having a baby on ice.
And she's the 31-year-old married reverend from Dublin, Reverend Nicola Halford. And we're going to talk to her about becoming a woman priest and how women can become more involved in the church.
But first today, in 2007, Ben Gilroy got an interest-only mortgage with Start Mortgages. For 4.5 years, he's been paying a whopping €2,800 a month, but now he can't pay any more.
He's in arrears for 6 months, but feels people like himself need to start standing up for themselves and tackling the banks.
When I bought my house 4 years ago, I went with a broker who brought me to Start Mortgages, and he said Start Mortgages would be a little bit expensive, but that if I kept my nose clean, he'd get me out of Start Mortgages within 6 to 9 months. It was €650 a week, so it's a lot. And then, of course, 3.5 years of never missing a payment, unfortunately. Look, I've no axe to grind with the banks. People think I have an axe to grind with the bank. I don't. But they must take some responsibility. I mean, OK, maybe I shouldn't have signed this, or maybe I should have got a written guarantee, but you take people on their word. And, like, you know, the bank then, you know, they're pulling away from the broker, say, well, he's a broker, he didn't know us. But, you know, the truth of the matter is he was able to phone them and get an answer within 2 hours whether I could have the mortgage or not. I go around housing estates putting leaflets in to promote my business, and I know other people do the same thing, and I know these people and they're in trouble, but they're too ashamed to say it. But as I said to them, look, you've done nothing wrong.
And he's here and he's not ashamed to say it. Ben Gilroy, a very warm welcome to our couch this morning. €2,800 a month. Fair play to you for a start for being able to pay that off for 4.5 years.
Well, it was supposed to be short term.
It was supposed to be short term. Before we get into what the promises were made from your mortgage broker, what type of house did you buy?
You'd imagine it was a mansion, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's just a 4-bedroom detached house in a nice housing estate in Navan. Lovely neighbours. And
I assume you bought at a time when people were moving out of the cities.
Yeah, well, I had already lived in Navan, so I was just upgrading slightly because I had got married and we had kids on the way. So
how much was it and how much did you have?
The bank valued it at 452,000, so that's what it was valued at. So I had 150,000 life savings that I put down on the house, and so we borrowed 310.
But €310,000, I borrowed €310,000 and decided I'd take the affordable option. I went interest only for a couple of years. I was paying about €635 a month. You were paying $650 a week.
Yeah, I think what happened there was that when they arranged the mortgage with me, well, the broker arranged with Start, I'd imagine the conversation was something like, look, this guy wants to get out of this within 6 or 9 months, so, you know, hit him for everything you got. And it started with interest only because the guy did say to me, Start, we're going to be expensive, so go interest only for the first 6 to 9 months. Because
why did you go with Start? Because they're a subprime lender. I mean, did you...
Oh, well, in my last house, because I travelled up and down the country and I wasn't married and I lived on my own, I did miss the odd payment, but I was never, my mortgage payments were so small I could catch up the next month. There's no problem. So my mortgage was up to date, but the broker just advised because this had happened, I would be better off going with Start Mortgages.
And what was said to you was, go with this for about 6 to 9 months, and then we'll move it on.
Keep your nose clean, and then we'll get you back out, you know.
And go interest only.
Yeah, well, because they were expensive, that was the advice. So I didn't mind that. Like, you know, like after 6 months, I thought if I pay interest only, it'll keep the bill down for them 6 months, because that 6 months is going to be a waste of money.
But you've wound up paying this interest only for the last few years, so why didn't it move?
I've no idea. We rang the broker after about a year and he said nobody's lending right now because this is when the proverbial had hit the van. So. So no one was lending right now. Keep your nose clean. So we did, and after about a year or two then after that we just couldn't contact him. So after 3.5 years the money was just gone. There's nothing we could do.
I mean, did you question him when he said to you after about 6 to 9 months, we'll move you on to a better deal? I mean, did you really get into that detail with him?
Yeah, I mean,
was that happening much at that time as well?
I didn't think it was, to be honest. I thought it was just me. I mean, since I was in the paper there a few weeks ago, the amount of people who've come out and given me support, and I know other people that I've been speaking to from the past few months, where I would be telling people that I know on building sites and stuff that I'm in a bit of trouble, with friends that work on building sites, and they come and say the same to you and say, well, I'm in trouble and I'm in trouble, and I meet people who I thought were wealthy and they're kind of saying to me, well, I'm in trouble too, Ben, but everybody's afraid to say it and nobody's fighting their corner. I mean, that's what I think is wrong. I'm not here really giving out about my situation. I'm well able to go into the bank and hammer out a deal for me. They haven't threatened me with eviction. Like, I want to say that, But
looking back, do you think you could have fought a bit more back then? Did you think you were a bit too trusting with this broker?
I had never met Start Mortgages. This was my problem. I only had met the broker. We had met in the county club there in Dunshaughlin over a cup of coffee, and I was given the impression he had all these phone numbers from EBS and Bank of Ireland. I could just make a phone call nearly now, but if I just did this, he could do that for me.
So in the years as they were passing, the recession was starting to hit in. There was no sign of your mortgage being moved, but the level of your work was dropping because people didn't have money to spend.
And the only reason I was able to sustain it was my father died and left me about around 35,000 in inheritance. So I was probably able to sustain it a little bit longer. I wish I'd pulled the plug, to be honest.
Just let us know what your situation is, what you do for a living.
Yeah, sure.
You're married, children.
I'm self-employed, so I'm not entitled to anything from the state, and nor do I want anything from the state. I mean, I never got anything from the state. I'm not looking for anything from the state. I'm not here whinging about poor me. I'm really trying to represent people who are afraid and ashamed to come out because there's a stigma attached. And I kind of fell into this position. I didn't want to be here representing these people, but that's just the way it's happened because so many people have rang me and said fair play to you and ask about this and hit them with that and tell them for this. So what we're trying to do is just educate people before they go into their banks to do a deal, because the banks will sit there and they will have their high-powered solicitors hammering a deal for them. And I'm not anti-banks. We need the banks. But like what I'm saying is in 8 hours these banks were able to get bailed out. And, there's people facing eviction. And who's bailing these people out? Like, these are the very people who bail these banks out. And then the few people who can't afford their homes now, the banks are evicting. I mean, it's not right.
In America, the financial establishment and the homeowner will share the hit.
Yeah,
that's not the way here.
No, I mean, I went in to Start Mortgages and I asked them if we sold our house, could they give me a smaller house, just guarantee the mortgage on a smaller house, and because by going with a subprime lender as well, there's a stigma attached, and other banks. I didn't know this, but other banks go, oh, you're with them, no thanks. So I had to then say to Start Mortgage, look, will you give me a smaller mortgage on a house? I don't mind moving to a small house. It didn't matter to me. But the answer was no. I said, look, your bank valuer valued my house. I didn't value it. You valued it at 450,000. A couple of months later, I can't get 270 for it. I mean, will you take half the hit on that? No. So, I've educated myself. I've learned to know what I need to know to go in and fight my corner, and I'm willing to do that. And I want to help other people because I know there's other people. I know a chap there recently, he was evicted from his house. And, it's a terrible thing to see,
How has your health been? I know you're the sole breadwinner, and you have a fourth baby on the way.
Yeah.
So,
and
the
to
pressure...
those who didn't know that, my apologies.
Oh, dear God, sorry.
I can see my wife on the floor now going, "Bob, what are you doing?"
But how has... you must be under a huge amount of pressure as your health...
I got psoriasis, it's an awful thing to get, and I think it's due to stress. I can't obviously say that. I'm not a medical practitioner. But I also got vertigo. I don't know if you ever suffered from vertigo. I thought vertigo was a thing of heights. You're afraid of heights. But I have vertigo, but I'm not afraid of heights. I can get up on chimneys, stand right at the very edge and look over. Most people can't do that. They don't have vertigo. But vertigo, the way it would affect me is I could be talking to you now, and within 10 seconds I could be on the floor, and I would need to be carried out. And it'll end up where I'm vomiting. The only way I can describe it is like as if you're on one of these waltzers at the playground, and somebody decides to leave you on a little too long.
You're completely disorientated.
You just end up vomiting, But I did get a hospital appointment for a year and a half's time from now, so
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
It's only a year and a half. You don't have to wait that long.
Yes, that's okay.
Well, that's another argument for another day, another discussion altogether. You did go to them, and that's one of the things you've just told us.
I did, but I went in, cap in hand and no knowledge and no backup of what I needed to look for from these people. I mean, because I'm not anti-banks. But if you're going in to deal with these banks, what we're trying to do is educate you, because there's no one fighting your corner.
You set up a group called Freedom from All Debt.
Yeah. And what we mean by freedom is, it doesn't mean everything is wiped off. I know the name kind of gives that, but what we're saying is, look, here's some tools to fight from your corner, and every case is different, because we've looked at a lot of contracts, we've looked at a lot of different stuff that the banks have done with people that were illegal in some cases and very, very wrong in others, and morally wrong in other cases. And every case will be an individual case. But what we're asking people is, get onto our website, come, we don't mind, we're non-profit, non-political organisation, we're just there to help Irish people. And we're saying, even in a lot of cases we've come across, and we've a couple of cases before the High Court, where we're actually saying to the bank, prove you own the loan. Prove you own the loan, because in a lot of cases, we think they can't do that. The deed has been sold on the Security Stock Exchange. So that's a good bargaining tool. I'm not saying walk away from your mortgage. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just saying, look, there's someone to fight your corner. Do not go in to meet the bank and deal with the bank
without getting a bit of advice.
And we have no agenda. We're just on your side, because you don't have a side,
Yeah. Educate yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The Keane report came out Wednesday. No blanket debt forgiveness to be given, and householders can transfer their house to the social authorities.
Yeah. They can give up their house and they can go and rent somewhere.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Or they can rent their own house. No, you see, I know that Irish people
you can't say that with a straight face.
No. It's just, it sounds bizarre, that you can.
I mean, look, this is Minister
hand back
Noonan,
your house and rent.
I have no axe to grind with Minister Noonan either, but he's supposed to be representing the people. Now, if this is the best he can come up with, I mean, did he come up with this on a bear mat somewhere? I don't understand even the thinking. And anybody I spoke to, they just cannot understand this thinking. Give up your house and rent, and then what? When I'm 60, what? I'll pack my family's bags and we'll go out on the street. I mean, when you're in your late 40s, you have to worry about these things. And I have a young family. And I'm not looking for handouts off the state or anyone. I want to make that very clear. People, always seem to have an agenda. I don't have one. But I'm saying, look, if this is the best you can come up, and, the government, previous government, Noonan, in fairness, that within 8 hours was able to bankrupt this country at the swipe of a pen. I mean, I think the total, it was an Oireachtas report there the other day, the total outstanding loans that people have, including credit cards and mortgages, was something like 148 billion. I was just thinking to myself, God, what if they just paid off all them debts? Now, I know it'd be unfair and blah, 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 but I'm only just giving it as a point to throw out. If they cleared all the debts and that, the country would be booming now. People wouldn't have had mortgages. The banks would have still got their money. I mean, I'm just trying to think outside the box instead of this toilet paper that Noonan came out with.
Yeah. Well, it's a debate that's going to go around for the next while. I know that these are just options that have been suggested in the Keane report, but we'll see how it goes on. But we thank you for coming in to talk to us.
Well, as I say, we're just there to help people. So if they go to freedomfromdebt.com, or freedomfromalldebt.com.
Okay. Ben, thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks very much for having me.